4, 3, 2, 1. Rock and roll. Rock and roll. 4, 3, 2, 1. Back. 4, 3, 2, 1.
A multinational task force. It's a fascinating story, and I'll let Terry take it from here.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me tonight. I know it's probably a choice between me and Golden Girls reruns, right? You didn't think that was funny. This is going to be a long hour. Okay, well, how about this one? So I was down in Tampa a couple weeks ago, and I was giving the speech, and we were done. We had dinner. We went to the bar, and Bill sitting on one side, and Jim sitting on the other. It was a senior citizen event like this, and Bill sitting on one side. Bill sitting on. Can I finish the story? Did y'all have too much to drink already? Bill sitting on this side, Jim sitting on this side, and Bill says to Jim, "Hey, I'm getting married again." And he says, "Getting married again? Why at your age would you want to get married again?" And he says, "Does she have any money?" And she said, "Well, she's got a little bit of money. Can she cook?" "She's okay." And he said, "Well, I just don't understand why you would want to get married again." He says, "She can drive at night." As Gene said, I went to VMI. I was supposed to do 4 years in the Navy, and it took off. I mean, I was a square peg in the round hole most of my life, and it was an adventure of 31 years, a great time. And one thing I always talk about is the men and women that wear the uniform of our services today, and how remarkable these people are. So if you ever see somebody in uniform, just say, thanks for their service, because they're doing a magnificent job out there. So I talked a little bit about pirates. So I was lucky enough after I finished the piracy operation, I went to the Naval Institute, talked about what I was doing out there, and they said you should write a book. My first title, the book was going to be Terry and the Pirates. Now, has anybody read Terry and the Comet? There we go, okay. Now I know where the audience is. But anyway, so we ended up with the book. It was it's just great to write a book, but I can tell you what, it's a money pit. I mean, unless your name is Kim Kardashian or something like that, you get a lot of money up front. But it was a lot of fun to write a book. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of the Navy and commerce with what it means to the United States of America. So I got 3 books here, and we're seeing who can win some books here, starting off real good. So 3 figures, 70, 80, and 90. Okay, anybody guess what significance 70 or so percent to maritime operations? Anybody want to guess? Anybody want?
More information, please.
70, let's say, how about 75%? Yes, ma'am.
That's how much water there is?
Very good, Mrs. Oh, how about that? 75%.
Did you sign it?
Yeah, I certainly did. 75% of the world is ocean, so it's important. Okay, so let's go 80 or 85. What do we think? This is tougher now.
On a cargo that's shipped by water.
No. Come on, 80%. Take a guess. Come on, you've got to guess.
The alcohol and gin.
Come on, you got in the back here. 80%. Let's talk about what are you? That's 80. People, maybe.
They live by the water.
We're 80 men.
On the box,
Shipping of goods.
No. 80 to 85%. There we go. We got a winner right now. Here we are. 85% of the world's population lives on their waterways. You're not supposed to. You're not allowed to say. Somebody else said that? Hey, these 2 people are on work release. I don't know how they got on the island, but anyway. Okay, so So 90 is probably going to be easier. How about 90%? No, come on, 90%.
Brent moved away.
What's it say in the back of your collar of your shirt? Made in China. So what 90% of
World Trade.
world trade? Who's that? Who said that? There we go. Well, you are. What are y'all talking about there? You don't get one. So anyway, 70% of the world, over 70% of the world is water. 85% of the population, 90% of everything we get. We don't come on a 747. It comes across ships coming into Savannah Harbor and everything. So the Navy will always be important, and the free flow of commerce is always important to the United States and always will be. So what's piracy going on? So this is just a quick slide. I always say this up front. Somebody will ask me the question, is there still pirates out there? Okay? And my response is, there are two professions in the world. You've read my book? So you want to stand up and tell what they are, the two professions again?
Prostitutes and pirates.
There we go. How about that? What kind of crowd is this? I mean, we're really out here. So there always will be pirates. How many are, and I'll show you a little bit later what there are. So it kind of goes from, you can see in Latin America and the Caribbean, it actually has increased out down there. So a lot has to do where navies are operating. We have smaller fleets now, and they say, well, why did Jesse James rob banks? Well, that's where the money was, exactly. So that's where the pirates go, where their navies are not operating. So, who does sailing? Anybody go in South Pacific? Anybody?
No. Yes.
So this is a reflection of where piracy is today, the hot spots. I'll get to where I was, but this is really the hottest spot right here on the west coast of Africa. A different type of pirates. Yeah, the west coast of Africa. Yeah, that was, maybe we got my bearings wrong. But the reason is, in this area right here is oil. And they're going, and the pirates, and I'm talking about the Somali pirates wanted just ransom for the ship. The pirates off the coast in Nigeria and everything, they're going after the oil, they want the cargo. So it's a different type of piracy. The pirate, in the 90s and early 2000s, there was a lot out in the Pacific out there. And you can see that it's all, it's still going on. But I want you to notice something, okay? What is this? Where is this right here? Panama Canal, right? What is this right here? Well, this is a pretty good spot. Anybody? How about this one?
Straits of Malacca.
Straits of Malacca, exactly right. So what is the key about piracy? Shipping channels. Shipping channels. So that's where a lot of piracy, because they're funneling through there. Okay, Gulf of Aden. How many people have been out there? Anybody? Gulf of Aden. So here it is. You've been there. Okay. So the Horn of Africa, Somalia. If you take, I think there's 250 plus nation states, rack and stack them up. Somalia probably ranks. Afghanistan and Somalia are probably at the very bottom. I mean, it's out of control. There's no central governments and things like that. So Somalia has always been a hotbed for what's going on. The Soviets tried to occupy it during the Cold War. Were not successful. The Italians have been there. The French have been there. The Brits have been there. But this is where it got big in 2000. Around the time frame 2006, 2007 started to pick up. So, whoops, I went ahead of myself. So how did it start off the coast of Somalia? And I'm just going to concentrate myself. So off the coast of Somalia is a very fertile area for fishing. So there was no Coast Guard, no police, no military off Somalia. So these foreign fishing vessels were coming in and basically inside the territorial waters. Anybody know what the territorial waters of the United States or any, what's that?
200 miles.
There you go. Buy that guy a drink right there. 12 miles. 12 miles is your territorial water. So what that means is that if a Russian warship comes down the east coast of the United States, it can do anything it wants 12 miles out, pretty much. Once it comes in and out into the 12-mile range, it cannot stop unless it's going to a port or something like that. So you can't have a Russian ship sitting off the coast of Savannah waiting for something to happen. It has to go out there. So anyway, these fishing vessels were coming in there. They have no Coast Guard. So guess what happens? Pirates. How did it start though? So these people, they basically said, hey, we don't want these foreign nations to come here. So they went out there and tried to establish their own police force. So basically what happened is they captured these vessels, and the first fishing vessels, they were getting ransoms for $25,000, $30,000. So guess what? Smart people got involved and said, if we can get $25,000, $30,000 for a fishing vessel, guess what we can get, excuse me, for a merchant vessel? And so there was a vessel called the Golden Nori that actually was the first ransom payment of over $1 million, so it got it out there. So in the 2009-2010 time frame, it basically was out of control. So the United Nations, this is actually one of the few times the United Nations authorized every navy, every nation to go into another country and say, you can do anything you want. Chase the pirates, go in there. I was out there in 2007 and we were having problems with pirates. The pirates would get inside their territorial waters, but there was no authority for us to go in there. So in 2009, the United Nations said, here's a blank check. So we could go in, we could chase the pirates, we could chase the merchant vessels. So actually there was a success. So in late 2008, Operation Atlanta stood up. This was a European Union naval task force. Their whole charter was to protect the World Food Program ships. These are small merchant ships that operate up and down the coast of Somalia. And they're transferring, whatever, around Africa. But that was the charter. Their charter was not to capture pirates. They would just basically protect the ships. So then, January 2009, guess who comes along? There you go, Terry and pirates. He comes along. So we stood up a multinational task force. What do you think a multinational task force is? They don't work? We'll change that. What do you think what's a multinational task force?
United States plus somebody.
Other nations, right. We didn't want it to be a U.S. Navy-centric operation. So we went to other nations and we stood up a task force. When I first got out there in January 2009, I had the Danish working for me, I had Germans working for me, I had the Brits and the Turks, and it kind of rotated around. I was the first U.S. commander. There were a couple after me, and now there's a whole bunch. It's the Singapore, Japan have all commanded this task force. So, not to argue with you here, but it has been very successful on a low-scale operation. Chasing pirates, let's put it this way, it's cops out there. We're not firing a lot of bullets, but it has been very successful. We'll talk about that. So, the majority of the pirates that were out there when I came out there came to this area right here. It's called Basasa. There are basically 3 areas of Somalia, and this is what they call Puntland. The lower area down here were Mogadishu. Everybody reads in the paper about Mogadishu. There's a lot going on down there. We are still fighting terrorist organizations down in Mogadishu. It's an Al-Qaeda type thing. But the interesting thing, and one question always says, why didn't the terrorists get involved with piracy? And we always thought they would, but it never happened because they're tribal regions. In this area up here, they were doing piracy. So basically the pirates would go straight up and they would basically sit in the transit lane. This is like a east-west highway that we set up when we were out there because the ships were transiting all over the place. So we said we cannot control, this is 30,000 ships go through here, and this is 3 times the size of the Gulf of Mexico. So we probably had 20, 25 naval vessels out there, so it was just too hard to control. So what we did is we put them in this lane. Now some navies like the Chinese, and the Chinese are out there. And I could spend a whole Knight talked about the Chinese. But when I first got out there, this was the first time that the Chinese had deployed outside of the area. Now they have come into Djibouti where we had a facility for, so they are all over the place. The Chinese are going to take over on the 21st century, believe me. That's going to be. So they're out there. We decided, the Chinese would basically convoy their operations. What we did is we stayed in particular areas so we could protect them. So let's talk about the pirates. What is Title IX? You know? Let's ask you, Ray. You know what Title IX is? I have no idea. You've already asked the question. How about the back here? What's Title IX?
Access for women equal.
There we go. All right. So guess what? Guess what pirates are? All male. And that's bad. Isn't that bad? I mean, can you believe that? What's that? Where's the ACLU in Somalia? No female pirates.
Maybe you just haven't talked to people.
And we haven't caught them? How many people in the military have prior military? Raise that, okay. Did you ever have a military person that didn't go after the, no, you know what I'm going. Anyway, so they're poor and they all are on cot. Do you know what cot is? Do you have some in your house in your backyard?
Yeah.
You got a ton of it, you grow it. Gene Walter's growing, what you got right here. They're all high on cot out there. And I'm telling you, everybody out there. I spent some time in Djibouti, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they run to the 7-Eleven and they all buy cot. It was significant events happened, and I'll talk a little bit about it later, that when they come down off this cot, they get very irritable. They're all barefoot. They're all barefoot for some reason. And one time they got attacked. They attacked an Indian merchant ship from India, and the crew members started throwing Molotov cocktails at them. And so the pirates were saying, "Stop, stop, stop!" And so why do you think they're stopping them from throwing it?
Stepping on glass.
Stepping on glass, right? So they didn't care about the flames or anything. Interesting that they're all out there. They can't swim. They don't fish. The Somalis, they got 1,500 miles of coastline. They don't go there. And the sad part about it is that 50% of them that go out there don't come back. Whether it's they get run over by ships. I mean, basically these people are desperate. And they put them in a boat and they say, "Hey, go attack a ship and catch a ship." So they get free medical. When we actually capture them, we treated them very well. We actually had a prison ship out there. And we gave them medical. It was the first time they got their teeth cleaned, bathroom or anything like that, 3 meals a day. I forgot to mention that when I started out there, my two most important people on my staff were my lawyer and my public affairs officer. Usually it's your operations officer, maintenance person. And it was ingrained into me, suspected pirates. They were not pirates, they were suspected pirates. And I asked every single day, how do you get a pirate merit badge? And I still have not got that answer. But it was, something in Washington said, don't call them pirates, call them suspected pirates. I guess they get their, when they get. So what is a success? What do you think a success is for a pirate? Absolutely, that's the other thing. They capture a ship, they get a ransom, and they make some money. The other thing that's funny is that success, they might get captured by, let's say, a Dutch Navy. So they go back to the Netherlands, they try them, they spend 4 years in jail, and guess what? They're driving a taxi cab at the Amsterdam airport. I mean, they're out of Somalia, and that's a success to some of these people. So I'll tell you a story. Speaking of the Dutch, so capturing one of the hardest things when you capture the pirates is what you do. It's like the dog catching the car. The first group of pirates that we caught. I mean, my wife was inundated with phone calls because it was all over the news. They were going to name a hall after me at the Naval Academy. I mean, I was going to be up there. I mean, it's going to be, it was the greatest thing in the world. Wow, we captured pirates. 24 hours later, we captured more pirates, and my command wants me to put them back in the war. Well, anyway, they don't get put back in the boat, do anything. So 70% of the pirates that we actually captured, or were captured, we call catch and release. That's your U.S. government, so anyway. But it was fun. So I talked about it. 30,000 vessels or so, depending on the economy, trade, everything. It's just an extremely important waterway that's out there. Both the ships and the crew are endangered, and is there really any interest or security jeopardized for the U.S.? Probably very little, because most of the trade is going through to Europe or to Asia, so it's not a lot. But piracy is a worldwide risk navigation. Some financial issues. So that's basically where, before I got out there, that's where the pirate attacks and everything was. So we had to figure out how to stop it. We basically had a couple options. One option was to convoy. So if you know convoys, anybody read books about World War II convoys, you go at the slowest speed of the slowest vessel. So it's 400, in that area, 400 nautical miles. So if you go 6 knots, how long it's going to take? So we chose not to. We just decided to stay up in this area up there because that's where most of the pirates actually. The cost of piracy, in the neighborhood of $3 billion. And I'll talk a little about it. It was very high in 2000. The biggest issue is if you decide to avoid the, you decide to avoid the Gulf of Aden and then go around, the Horn of Africa, you're adding 6,000 or 7,000 miles. And what costs money when you more distance costs some money. So they decided not to do that. Fuel, which is the thing, the militaries itself that are out there, and security. The interesting thing about security is that when I first got out there, that none of these ships had any armed security. They were basically out there all by themselves. They thought that the U.S. and all these NATO ships and everybody would protect them, but we just couldn't do it. So we went to them and said, "Hey, you have to start protecting yourself." And so they for some reason these crew members didn't want to get involved with weapons, so they started to hire security teams. The problem is that you were not allowed to have security teams transit through the Suez Canal, and if a security team, a ship went into a port in the Persian Gulf area, they were not allowed to have weapons. So what do? So they established these vessels that are out there, and they just basically load and offload security teams on there. I talked about about 3 antagonists of revenue. The Suez Canal, it's very interesting. Egypt has 2 ways that they basically make money for their economy. What do you think they are? Somebody in the back. Anybody in the back? Take a guess. No, not oil is not one of them. What's that? Tourism. Very good. Tourism. What else? The Suez Canal. Anybody want to take a guess? We have U.S. aircraft carriers that transit through the Suez Canal. What do you think it costs to go through the Suez Canal? Very good. You've read the book. It costs $1 million for an aircraft carrier to transit through there. So if you stop transit ships through the Suez Canal, they lose money. So it's very important we do it. I talked about that. And I talked about terrorism a little bit. We had a ship that was captured. It was actually, I guess it's on now. It was a Ukrainian arms carrier. You know what's going on? Maybe we should have had President Trump back then, and we could have negotiated. He would have wrote a letter. Did you see the letter in the news today? Anyway, so it was a Ukrainian arms carrier. Now, it was carrying RPGs, just different kind of weapons. So the U.S., the National Security Council thought is that they were going to offload these weapons into Somalia, somewhere in Mogadishu. Then these Africans were going to transit across Africa, get on another ship, come to the East Coast, and invade America. It was one ship. I'm being sarcastic. But we had 4 ships. I tell you, we had 4 military ships guarding this thing, man-to-man defense, until the ransom was paid. Because we would fear that the terrorists would get the weapons. But the terrorists, it never materialized. The terrorists never got involved with piracy operations. let's talk about, I don't want to bring up a story about international president. So, I've given this speech many, many times, and I throw this slide up because this is pretty much every nation that has been involved with piracy in the Gulf of Aden. And all these countries are cooperating out there. I mean, the Chinese, the Russians, the Greeks, the Turks. So I threw this slide up one time, it was actually in a high school, and I said, is there ever an occasion where you see cooperation like this? What do you think the answer was?
Olympics.
Olympics. Very good. Did you say my speech? But it is a true fact that actually we had cooperation. We talked to each other, we worked with each other, and you know, the United States was not the best ship. I mean, we were very good at what we did, but the Danes were remarkable out there. And there's just tremendous cooperation out there. I mean, they knew what we call littoral operations, and it worked. So a great success story for military operations.
Terry, does that cooperation still exist?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you know, some ships, some nations, I mean, may just supply patrol boats or aircraft or something like that. But everybody was supported the operation, and they were very successful. So how do we know these are boats that have Yamaha engines? Anybody got stock in Yamaha engines? You're doing very well, because there are hundreds of these boats out there. Okay, and so how do we know if they're pirates? There's also what's going on from Somalia up to Yemen is human trafficking. And every night you see boats just loaded to the gills with human, you know. People coming to Somalia trying to get out of Somalia. So they're out there. Also, they're out there, it's drugs. That area out there is called the Hashish Highway. For years, it's a famous route for trading drugs. So how do you know? So usually it's crowded in there with, 7 and 8 people, motors, 20.
Why do you need a ladder like that?
Good question. Let me talk about it. So, grappling hooks and ladders. How many fishermen do we have here? How many fishermen? Raise your hands. Come on a minute. Up there. Okay. Raise your hand. You're a fisherman. Okay. When was the last time you caught a fish with an AK-47? You haven't done. You should try it.
Not yet.
Come on. It's easy.
He uses dynamite.
Dynamite. So, why do they have grappling hooks and ladders? Get on the ship. These people are magicians. I mean, ships go on. The thing that if a ship goes over 18 knots, he's not going to be pirate. These slow movers, and I'll talk a little bit about. They jump on there, throw it up, and then just skimmy up the sides. It's amazing to watch what they do. So small arms, AK-40Ms. I mean, that's the standard thing you use in your fishing boat right on Saturday afternoon. Right? So they're full of it. A lot of it is ex-Soviet weapons that the Soviets left there. So their tactics, targets of opportunity. You would be amazed. They attack anything. They have attacked U.S. Navy warships. Now, how successful is that? Or how stupid is that, I should say? I mean, they would attack them. There's pirates, suspected pirates, excuse me. But maybe they're pirates now. But that are in U.S. prisons now because they attacked U.S. Navy ships. So. They usually did it early in the morning, and the Somali pirates had a code. They did not want to harm the crew or harm the ship. Because what happens when they capture the ship, right, they actually, and we'll get into that, but they don't care about the cargo, they just want the ransom for the vessel. So if you harm the crew, they can't negotiate, and so they had a code, which is totally different from what pirates off in the Straits of Malacca. I mean, they don't care. They kill the crew, the same thing, off of the west coast of Africa. How tactics changed a little bit. We started to get a handle on it in the Gulf of Aden, and then they moved out to the Indian Ocean. How many people have seen the Captain Phillips movie? Okay, he was out in the Indian Ocean. Okay, he was operating out there. These boats are called dhows, and they would basically put the pirates in there, and then they'd send the pirates out there. There was a notice, what we call a notice to mariners. He was supposed to stay outside of a certain area off the coast of Somalia. And it's still in litigation, I think, that he brought the ship inside of that area, and they got captured. So you talk about now this vessel right here is the Sirius Star. The payment that was captured in September of 2008, I think, and the ransom paid was anywhere between $15 and $20 million for that vessel right there. It was headed for the United States. It come out of the Straits of Hormuz, and it was just steaming slow off the coast of Somalia. And somebody said, "There's a big fish out there. You need to go out there," and they captured. Low freeboard. This is the freeboard of the ship. They basically are able to get up there. They're transiting low speed. And outside, I told you about the transit area, so out there. But this was right off the coast of Somalia. It was transmitting, no transmitting AIS. How many people have been in an airplane? Anybody? Maybe I should ask you. So when you're flying an airplane, I don't know if you know this or not, there's radars all over the United States, all over the world, tracking airplanes and all that kind of stuff. But it is not really tracking the airplane itself. They have a transponder in the plane. It's called IFF. And so it's putting out a signal. It's got a code, United Airlines 209. So that's what that is. So in 2006, we got smart in the shipping and put what we call AIS on there. So it actually transmits this. This is a Navy ship. This is a cargo ship. You get it. The pirates, there was a lot of thought is that the pirates would, were capturing that signal and going after certain ships, but they were not that far. The other issue is no lookouts. They just didn't have anybody out there, and these pirates would just go right out there. So everybody got into the anti-pirate tactic business. Let's see, we got Raytheon, we have Dirty Industries, we have Waldron Industries. It was just, nothing worked. There was a pirate vessel that we were trying to go after, and it was right off the coast, and we're trying to get it done. So we thought, first of all, we put this high-powered sonar to keep them awake like that. And then we decided, well, let's try Barry Manilow music and try to keep, and that didn't work. So there's a lot of things that didn't, that work. I gave this brief one time, and this concertina wire, and somebody said, well, why don't we just put it around the coast of Somalia rather than around the pirates? The good news story is, we worked with the merchants. They were able to do things, armed security teams. This was an interesting event. You talked about they captured the pirates because they have to run the ship. So a lot of merchant ships that were captured, what they would do is they would go into this citadel, into this secure space on the ship. They turn the radios off, they turn it, and they put out a distress signal. So one time they had there was actually a Navy ship out there with some Marines on board. So the Marines went onto the ship, captured the pirates. As soon as the pirates saw the Marines coming, they threw up their hands and threw down their weapons. They were scared of them. So now you have to tell the crew that the Marines are on board. So they're banging on the hatch, nobody answers. So finally, they bore a hole in the side of this space. One of the Marines took his his flag and put it into the space, and they figured out that. So it was a great story. How do they prevent it? There's all kinds of speed. I talked about that. Lookouts. You see all of this stuff out there. Scanning for pirates. Water cannons. Amazingly, you take the water from the ocean and just try to get it because it prevents the boats from coming alongside. But a very, very successful pirate attack. Drums, everything out there. Nets, concertina wire, everything you can do. So why was it successful? Has it been successful? It has been a very successful operation. There is not, piracy out there has basically gone down to zero. There's been a few attacks and a few captures. But the maritime community got involved with it, worked hard to work with the merchants. The governments in Somalia, I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, but they have tried. We have worked with the United Nations and other countries to get them to do something else besides going out being pirates, whether it's fishing, something that's profitable. So it has, and they actually have established some rule of law in there. And the international coalition. I would say without a doubt, that's one of the main success stories there. Coalition support, legal process for prosecution. This was the hardest part of my job, getting the pirates out there. It was just, the Brits, us, and the Danes had what we call rules of engagement where we could catch the pirates. But we'd catch them, they'd say put them back in there. We caught some pirates one time, we tried to get them to Kenya for prosecution. Other parts of our organization would say, we're not going to. So McKnight's got pirates on board. Okay, so how do I get them off the ship now? I got 20 pirates, and I get them. So, what are you doing? Throw them overboard? Well, hold that thought. So what are you talking about?
Give them to the Russians.
Well, the Russians captured some pirates. And so they kept them on board for about 24 hours, put them back into their craft. They were about 250 miles off the coast of Somalia. Put them back in their craft, and the next day they were gone. What do you think happened? What's that? Yeah, driving a cat I was close. Now they're with King Neptune at the bottom.
They drowned.
They drowned. They actually were shot by the Russians, they admit it. But of course the Russians said that they got out of the craft and tried to swim to shore, 250 miles out. But here, I'll give you a case that it was kind of classic. So the Danes captured some pirates. And so now, you know where the Gulf of Aden is, so where's Denmark? Far away. Are there any bridges or roads to go back there? So you've got to get them back to Denmark to get them prosecuted. So how do you do that? So the ship, fortunately the ship was going into Bahrain in the Persian Gulf there for what we call a port call. So they said, they worked it out with the Bahrainians, a military aircraft, or they were going to put them on a flight back to Denmark, Copenhagen. And so they worked it out with the Bahrainians and say, look, we don't want them walking around the souk down there buying Rolex watches or anything. So the ship had to stay out in the harbor until, right before. So 1 o'clock in the morning, the ship pulls in there. You put them in a van, drive them to the Bahraini airport, walk them down the jetway. They're in these poopy suits. The pilot sees them come on board. Guess what?
Nope.
No. They ain't on my plane. So they had to take them back out of the ship, had to get back, leave the harbor, and then they had to fly a military aircraft. So it was extremely complicated. The U.S. leadership has always been out there and extremely involved. I had an NCIS agents out there, Coast Guard. It really is that type of mission because it's a law enforcement. It's not really a law of war. We had a lot of what we call UAVs out there flying around. We could fly them over Somalia. Somali linguists. Now this is an interesting term. How many people know anybody who speaks Somali? Nobody. So, U.S. government, let's see how we get Somali linguists. So first of all, you got to find somebody. So then you have to contract somebody. So you pay the contract, then you got to train them, and so 2 years later you finally get them out there. So I was talking about how complicated it was to my friend on the Danish ship, and what they did? Close. They put an ad in the newspaper and said, anybody know? And these people have been in Denmark for a while, and they trained them, and they speak, they put them in, and they put them in the Danish Navy. So we talked about the Russian solution, just kill them. Actually, the police force was able to release a ship one time, and the best management practices, this is what the merchants took on to protect their ships themselves. Solving the problem. So, when we paid the ransom payments, what do you think they want? U.S. dollars. In what denomination? Come on. It had to be in $100. When I was out there in 2007, what would happen is we pay the ransom, somebody in Dubai would take the money, and by the time we got to Somalia, everybody gets their share. So they said we want to cut out the middleman, so they decided they wanted to airdrop it in there. Oh yeah. The first time it happened, these people were not very much right. They actually missed the ship. And You laugh, it's true. And these Somalis were jumping in the water and dying. But then, then we ran into a problem. Okay, so $10 million in what? Okay, you ready? Here we go. Let's get started. Ready? One. It was taking them weeks to actually count the money. So you know what we decided to do? So let's help them out. We dropped a dollar counting machine. Because all they do is put the money in there. But it's all they want. The U.S. dollars, they use a dollar. We tried to, to get into their financial networks and things like that, but it was such a small thing on the, U.S. defense. It wasn't worth it. There are terrorist organizations that if you want to withdraw U.S. dollars and you say, well, what are you going to use it for? You're going to withdraw $1 million. You have to sign a form that says it's not to these terrorist organizations. So they tried to make the pirates part of this thing, but Congress and all that kind of stuff. So I heard that at 7 o'clock y'all are going to walk out.
You did great.
So we have, before you start walking, we have a few minutes. Yes, sir. We'll come back.
What are you gonna do to celebrate the 244th anniversary of the Navy?
I've got dinner tonight with Gene Waldron. How about that?
What are you gonna do for fun?
What am I doing? Yes, sir.
Terry, the movie Captain Phillips,
Right.
is that reasonably realistic?
So great question.
Repeat the question, please.
Yeah, the question was the Captain Phillips movie reasonably accurate? So I got lucky enough to preview the movie, and then we went to the premiere of the movie, and the producer actually said, he says, look, we're trying to put people in seats. We don't care if it's 100% accurate. And so even when I looked at it, he said, I said, can I change anything? He said, no, it's too much. Because they already, and so they said some other thing. So one of the things that's amazing about this, and I still haven't the answer. So most of the people have seen the movie. If you haven't, you can go get. So you remember he's on board the ship, okay, and he tries to give the pirates money. He had $30,000 in his safe, okay. So he's trying to pay the pirates. The pirates said, no, we don't want $30,000. He said, I'll let you go. We want millions. We can get it. So Captain Phillips gets caught, and he's in the boat, and they do the life raft, and the $30,000 went with him. So fast forward a couple days later, pirates, are killed. Captain Phillips survived. Guess what?
No, 30,000.
No $30,000. Where did it go? Nobody knows. Right? I mean, they polygraphed the SEALs, because the SEALs jumped in the water and went to the craft. They were the first ones there. The boxer that was out there got the dead Somali pirates and the life raft and took care of it. And the XO of the ship, the executive of the ship, took custody of it. They polygraphed him. Nobody knows what happened to $30,000. So it's a mystery. Yes, sir.
We were on the Red Sea about to go past Yemen and Somalia, going to aid, and we were ghosted by a gunship. And that gunship let some guys out, and they boarded our ship with satchels that supposedly carried shoulder launchers. That must have been private security. I understand. How does that private security coordinate to the government, the Navy that's out there?
No, actually, no. There's the private security teams. They operate by themselves. I guarantee you they've killed pirates and things like that. But they are just security teams that are out there. They operate, with the merchant ships. They contract them. They get in one part of the security zone and they get off them. So it's a pretty sophisticated operation. So
The other thing I noticed what you're saying is I remember that when we were about to go to that area, and it's not that wide. I mean, you can see Somalia on that side and Yemen on that side. But I remember Captain Bathgate, we were on a cruise ship, Seaboard, and I remember he put it down, we went as fast as we could go through there. So.
The most amazing thing, if you've never been out there, I was out there in January 2009, and how many sailboats are transiting through that area? I mean, it's unbelievable. There was a case where there was a sailboat out there and they got captured by the pirates. And I talked to Lori about the pirates were on board, that they were trying to get them back to Somalia, because once you get them in Somalia, it's hard to get them to land. So we had some ships there and everything. But the pirates came down off their high with cot. And this guy, Jim Likwaszewski, who worked for NBC News, called me up and said, Terry, what's going to happen? And so I did an interview, and I said, hey, the Somali pirates have a pirate code. They're not going to kill him. So the next morning, I get to the office, and there's a red light there. They had to run another story about it. He called me and said, McKnight, your story stinks. I said, what happened? He said, they killed the crew. It was on the sailing vessel Quest, and those pirates were captured because they started fighting between each other, and then they said, what the hell? Killed 4 Americans. So I had some questions back here. Let me get this one back here. Yes, sir.
How does the United States Navy get to be in the leadership position of this multinational coalition?
Right. So if you go back and if you rewind the tape, Hillary Clinton said in 2009, there are pirates out there. And everybody says, do we have to do this? We really didn't have a choice because we have the large majority of the assets out there. We have the leadership, we established all this thing. We have it out in Bahrain, we have the 5th Fleet headquarters. We also have a coalition headquarters out there. So we got all these navies. So it was our leadership that we had to do it. The European Union had a task force. They were out there. The NATO had a task force. So they're all predominantly the NATO task force and the United States, the task force 151, have stayed out there. The Chinese are out there operating by themselves. The Russians come, but we have the assets and we have the leadership, so that's what it is. Yes, sir.
If you, in a hypothetical, you get a radio, we've been taken over by pirates.
Right.
What happens? I mean,
That's a great question. So it's like the medical. So the question is, what happens? So we're out there, we're steaming around. Okay, we get a distress call. The ship is under attack. That's your question, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like the magical 30 minutes. Medical. Get. So if we could get a helicopter or a ship there to that vessel. Because it would take them a while to get on board and fire. So they would call up, and they would do this all the time. We're under distress, we get out there, they didn't really get attacked, or they pick up the speed and did something. So if we could get there within, let's say, 30 minutes, I have a ship there, then the pirates usually back off. Very, very seldom. It happened, but the U.S. Navy, once they got on board, we said, okay, game's over. We're not going to go and fight them on board the ship. Some countries got into into firing with them.
So you just were given the money?
No. So what happens then? And let me see if it takes a while to go back. So what happens is let me go real quick. I got the 7 o'clock. You'll walk out on me. If you remember the coast of Somali, what would happen is they'd get captured in the Gulf of Aden. And then they would take them to pirate camps on the east coast of Somalia. There was 2 pirate camps, and they would basically just nest them in there, and then they negotiated. We were basically out of the picture by then. And then it's insurance companies negotiating, and shipping agents. They get the crew on the phone. And they say, hey, I want to come see Mama. Can you please come rescue me? And they play these games. They start off, they want $50 million. And $50 million. Then they keep going down. And the average time that they spend in the pirate camps was about 90 days or so. They negotiate.
Did it make a difference to you whether it was an American flagship, merchant flagship versus some other?
Yeah, we really didn't care. There's very few American flagships out there. So most of them, if you know anything about the maritime operation. So because just like you're living in South Carolina to avoid taxes, right?